You were what, 549th on the list? You know, if it was anyone else, I'd go nuclear bananas, but I hate web, and you would doubtless fuck it up, so I consider that a result.
I'll get the hard drives then.
Hey, fuck off. You're planning to jump ship for LSR. Don't grandstand when you're chasing the private pound. Where the fuck are you going?
I turned them down. I didn't want to do it.
Oh, well, we just sorted out your farewell present. Here. What am I supposed to do with this now?
When Dickie Bowe, an ex-service agent, spots a familiar figure in Cotswold, he instantly flashes back to when he got kidnapped and tortured by Russians as a young agent. Realizing that the bald man is one of those torturers, Dickie tails him. However, he doesn't know that the bald man is aware of it. Dickie follows him into a bus and soon suffers a heart attack and dies, but not before leaving a hasty message on his phone. The next morning, Jackson Lamb, the boss at Slough House, the intelligence sect made of MI5 rejects, launches an investigation on Dickie's death. On the bus, Dickie had died in Lamb, finds Dickie's phone alongside the message he'd left behind, which is just one word: cicada, with the word referring to a group of Russian sleeper agents embedded in British society. Meanwhile, Min and Louisa, who are in a relationship, get drafted by James Spider Webb to guard him during a meeting with Nevsky's representative, Pashkin. James intends to create a working relationship with Nevsky, a Russian oligarch, who could become the next Russian president. At Slough House, everyone returns and Lamb asks Roddy to pull up CCTV footage of the bus station so he can learn more about Dickie's death. As they study the footage, Roddy notices Dickie rubbing his arm before his death. So, the team rewatches closely and spots a mysterious bald man touching Dickie on the same arm. Afterward, the team concludes that the man must have injected Dickie with a poison, triggering his heart attack. Later that night, during a conversation with his grandfather, David, River learns Dickie had once used the word cicada years ago after his kidnapping, but no one in the agency believed him due to lack of evidence. After that, River meets up with Lamb and is tasked with finding out more about the bald man. To learn more about the cicada, Lamb visits Nikolai, an ex-KGB agent who believes that the cicada and Popov, their spy master, are real. Meanwhile, River tracks the bald man down to a taxi booth and gets the number of the driver who drove the bald man to his destination. On the other hand, Min and Louisa meet up with Kirill and Pyotr, Pashkin's guards, to discuss the bug sweep in the Glass House boardroom, where Spider and Pashkin will meet. After the discussion, Min tails Pashkin's guards out of suspicion, but they discover he's following them and shake him off their tail. Conversely, Nikolai tells Lamb that years ago, he'd overheard Popov tell Andrei Chernitsky to take care of the cicadas after their last mission. When Lamb asks Nikolai for Andrei's description, he realizes it matches that of the bald man they're looking for. When River then tracks the taxi driver to a cafe, he eventually learns that Andrei was dropped off at a flying club in Upshot. Later, Lamb meets up with Diana Taverner, the operating director of MI5, and tells her about the cicadas, but she refutes his claim. As soon as River gets to the flying club, he asks Roddy to track Andrei's number, who, in turn, locates the number at Estonia. When River later meets with Lamb to give him a report of the investigation so far, Lamb gives him an additional task to find out what Andrei was doing in Upshot, as well as unearth the cicadas. Later that night, Min gets caught by Pyotr at gunpoint when his unwavering suspicion had caused him to tail the Russians again. After catching Min on their tail the second time, Kirill and Pyotr let him off the hook after a drink together at their place. Meanwhile, River arrives in Upshot as journalist Jonathan Walker and rents a room in a pub. Back at Slough House, Lamb reveals to Catherine that his real plan is to use River as bait, to bring out a cicada agent and Andrei as well. Their conversation is interrupted by a phone call from Duffy, informing Lamb of the death of one of his agents. When Lamb and Catherine arrive at the scene, they find Min dead after riding drunk into a vehicle owned by a certain Rebecca. When returning to Slough House, Lamb hands Roddy Min's watch to track the last place he'd been to before the accident, and later also looks into Rebecca because he doesn't believe Min's death is a mere accident. Meanwhile, at Upshot, Kelly, the bartender of the pub and also the daughter to the owner of the flying club, takes River on a tour of the village, including an aerial one. When they arrive at the flying club, River gets a window of opportunity and quickly takes pictures of the photographs in the office. However, while they're away on the aircraft, the properties he was asked to leave behind, his phone, wallet, and keys, are inspected by Kelly's father, Duncan. By the time River returns from the tour, Duncan has left. But River notices things have been tampered with and phones Lamb, telling him that the owner of the flying club is onto him. On the same phone call, River also learns of Min's death. Meanwhile, Marcus has replaced Min in Webb's operation. So, he and Louisa do a bug sweep with Kirill and Pyotr and inform Pashkin afterward. When Lamb finally locates Rebecca, he promises her protection in exchange for the truth, and she tells him that Min was in fact killed, but not by her. Meanwhile, at Slough House, Roddy, Catherine, and Shirley discover from CCTV footage that Andre never left the UK, but had cleverly slid his phone into someone else's pocket. Back at Upshot, while honoring Kelly's mother's invitation to dinner, River gets a phone call, informing him that Andre's still in the UK. Just then, they get a visitor, who turns out to be Andre. Diving further into the truth, Rebecca tells Lamb that Min was killed at the hotel by Kirill, Pyotr, Andre, and a fourth person whose face she couldn't see. Afterward, his body was taken to where Lamb and Catherine found it, and made it look like an accident. Lamb then visits Nikolai but finds the office empty. While he's there, Nikolai calls him on the office line and reveals that he's been playing Lamb all along. It turns out that Nikolai's old bosses, the KGB, had instructed him to derail Lamb by keeping him focused on himself and Dickie. As Lamb later leaves his office, Catherine picks up a folder from his table about Nevsky. Back at Upshot, the dinner with Kelly's family ends uneventfully. While Andre is on his way out, River cleverly slips his service phone into the Russian's jacket. As the family bids Andre farewell outside, River runs out to his car, pulls a gun from the trunk, and gets in. Then he contacts Roddy, asking him to track the service phone in Andre's jacket. Meanwhile, Catherine uses the information she got from the file she picked from Lamb's office to set up a meeting with Viktor Krimov, an information trader, hoping to learn more about Nevsky, but it ends in futility. Lamb, on the other hand, follows Min's old trail, but he doesn't get anything. Afterward, he calls Shirley to meet him at Nevsky's. On getting there, they discover Nevsky has been attacked and killed by radiation injection. When Louisa goes to kill Pashkin, she's stopped by Marcus, who had been put on her tail by Lamb. Despite her quest for vengeance, she calms down after Lamb promises to avenge Min's death. He instructs her to attend the meeting between Webb and Pashkin, as she was meant to, and she agrees. Meanwhile, River tracks Andre to the flying club and finds him along with Nikolai. Just then, Alex, Kelly's mother, shows up as River holds them at gunpoint and tries to calm him. When he doesn't budge, she tases him. Andre and Nikolai leave the flying club the next morning, while Alex flies out to go bomb the glass house, leaving River behind, tied up and helpless. Alex's mission at the glass house has dangerous repercussions, as a large crowd of people have gathered there to protest against Peter Judd, who now is the UK's Home Secretary, and his bad capitalistic governance. Back at the flying club, River, who has been trying to escape his bonds, receives a phone call from Duncan and informs him he's been tied up. Desperate to get information on Nevsky, Catherine strikes a bargain with Viktor over a game of chess. If she wins, he gives her what she wants, and if she loses, she'll take a shot of vodka while being a recovering alcoholic. At the flying club, River's been found by Duncan and Kelly. Quickly, He launches into an explanation unearthing Alex's true identity as a Russian sleeper agent, currently on her way to inflict harm on lots of people. He also reveals his true identity to them. At first, they don't believe him, until they see the letter of apology and the ring Alex left behind. Then, they untie River. As soon as he's released, River calls Diana and issues a Code September, the alert for an incoming attack from an aircraft. Immediately, Diana and Peter leave, and then warn the protesters 30 minutes later. When Lamb learns of Code September, he tries to warn Louisa and Marcus, who have accompanied Webb to the meeting with Pashkin, but doesn't get through to them. Just then, Catherine calls to inform him of her findings. It turns out that Victor met Nikolai instead of Pashkin, as Lamb suspected, and that everything that happened was planned to get Lamb. At the boardroom, Webb and Pashkin's meeting is started, but soon erupts in chaos when Pashkin pulls out a gun on Webb, Louisa, and Marcus, and reveals his culpability in Nevsky's murder. After Pashkin shoots Webb, Marcus returns fire, shooting Kirill in the leg. Though they aren't able to keep Pashkin and Pyotr from leaving the room, they have the wounded Kirill. When Lamb learns Nikolai is at the head of everything going on, and that he's trying to get back at him for killing his informant in the MI5 years ago, he schedules a private meeting in order to protect the rest of the crew at Slough House. Meanwhile, inside the glass house, Webb's unconscious from losing too much blood, while Louisa tortures Kirill to get information on what's really going on. He tells her about their plans to shut down the glass house by faking a Code September in order to break into Nevsky's office and infect his computers with a virus so that the FSB, the primary Russian intelligence agency, can drain Nevsky's accounts. Meanwhile, Roddy, who has been searching for Andre alongside Shirley, informs her he's on a train with the Russian, and she agrees to meet with him. Back at the flying club, River notices the bomb meant to be in the plane heading for the glass house is still at the club, and calls Diana to keep Alex from getting shot down. Conversely, Alex's plane has been cornered by 2 military helicopters, ready to shoot her down if she disobeys the command to land or divert, and she eventually complies. When Roddy notices Andre has left his seat, he starts searching for him. He has a run-in with the Russian and would have been killed if Shirley didn't step in. During the ensuing fight, Andre locks both of them in the toilet, but doesn't succeed in killing them. Louisa and Marcus eventually make it out of the boardroom and into Nevsky's office, only to find Pyotr dead, Pashkin gone, Nevsky's thumb on the desk, and an open laptop showing Nevsky's safe has been broken. By the time Lamb reconnects with Nikolai, he's pieced the puzzle together and knows that Nikolai is Popov, and that he's trying to exact vengeance on the people that were involved in the death of his informant, who is revealed to be Charles' partner, with Lamb, of course, being one of the men involved. Nikolai further reveals that the FSB has asked him to initiate the plan to fake a Code September, so that they could get to Nevsky's accounts in exchange for the identities of the men whom had killed Charles' partner. Back at the glass house, Louisa is almost killed when she tracks Pashkin to the rooftop, but Marcus saves her, shooting Pashkin just in time. Back at Nikolai's office, he lets Lamb know he's awaiting a call confirming the death of the second person involved in Partner's killing, David Cartwright. But when Andre arrives at David's house, he gets killed by David instead. With all his plans in shambles, Nikolai asks Lamb to kill him, as he prefers death to being arrested. But Lamb turns him down. However, he doesn't stop Nikolai from shooting himself. Sometime later, Diana and Peter agree to sweep the entire event with the Russians under the carpet, while Min gets buried.
So Min Harper.
Min Harper.
All right, come on, fuck off.